And now, the LSU Football Fix with Preston Guy, presented by TigerBait, starts now.
And welcome in. My name is Preston Guy, staff writer at TigerBait.com. Joined with me, as always, each and every Monday night is publisher of Sports Illustrated's LSU Country, Zack Nagy. Zack, slow day in sports, right?
No, I know, right? We're entering the thick of it all, man. You got women's basketball on deck. Obviously, a little game this weekend with Alabama. So we got a lot of stuff going on, and a little under the weather on this end, but we're gonna fight through it and get through it with a really, really solid week. I'm excited to see what we can talk about today.
Yeah, and look, we'll be doing some women's basketball score updates. I'm sure there's a bunch of people who are going to be watching this with it up over there, or maybe you only briefly care for a game against Eastern Kentucky, whatever it is. They're currently up 48-24, so doubling up their score. So we'll talk about that. Before we go too deep into things, guys, I do want to let y'all know who our title sponsor is each and every week, guys. It is Celebrity Theaters. Of course, they've got locations in Baton Rouge and Ruston, ready to serve your needs as Louisiana's only locally owned and operated theater. Took my little boy there this weekend to go see A Wild Robot, a shockingly cute little show. So we enjoyed that. But guys, we got to talk tonight. I mean, weather is a factor with a tropical storm in the Gulf. We're going to touch just briefly. This is an LSU show, but I mean, gosh darn it. What a huge news today with the Saints firing Dennis Allen. Some would say it was sooner than expected. Some would say it was long overdue. I somehow find myself in both boats. We also have a scraggler popping in. I'm gonna pop him on stage before he hits us with that flex bomb. Mike, what's going on, man? Mike, you're muted.
Can't even hear him, man.
What a bum. What a bum this guy is. Mike, who's he trying to show us? Oh, he's trying to show us the game. Yeah. We know you're at the game. Mike, is your mic working? No. Okay. All right. Well, get off my show. Don't hit me with that flexor. Anyways, of course, LSU plays a football game this weekend against Alabama. We're of course gonna chop that up and talk about this. Oh my God, it's inevitable. It's like Thanos, man. Anyways, we're gonna talk the stakes. That Bryce Underwood rumors are swirling as strong as ever. So I've talked to some sources familiar with the program. We're certainly going to get into that. We're going to let Nagy walk you through the presser and what BK said today. Actually, I thought he had some funny responses and some good comments today and some insightful things. LSU missing a major offensive lineman for the Alabama game. We'll be back for the Florida game, but he's out for that. Touch on an interesting recruiting list. LSU has tons of recruits for the game tonight. LSU commitment is visiting Michigan, and his name is not Bryce Underwood. So we're going to discuss that. And of course, we'll end the show with our LSU-Bama game prediction. So let's get to a couple comments there. Hey guys, well, LSU will beat Bama Saturday night. Some confidence there from Mike Cumby. McAval, let's go. Of course, guys, always hit like, beat Mike. We've been doing real good in these shows. We've been closing the gap between us and Mike. Y'all continue to smash that like button. Help us out with the analytics and all that good stuff, especially on a night where, a lot of LSU fans are watching the women's basketball game. Mike's there. He's not even watching us, and he owns this darn YouTube channel. So y'all make sure to hit that like. What's up, Chef and Zack? TigerBait BFFs. You know how it goes, guys. Zack, and look, I'm going to just struggle with your last name. I'm sorry. Justin Zaduniak. I saw the Z and the K and just read Zack. Justin Zaduniak. I think I did pretty good there. Do you fellas think with a loss, the loser team still has a chance to make the playoffs? Zack?
Yeah, no, I'll go first on that. No, I think the general kind of narrative around this game is that it's a college football playoff elimination game, and I certainly agree. I think it'll be challenging, and you'll obviously be on the outside. You'll be on the outside looking in,
Right.
With the loss here. So for me, no, I think with a loss here, you're out. So the stakes couldn't be higher. It's about as big as it gets.
And look, when I do this, I'm also going to has a part 2 of his question here. And do y'all think the winner can potentially play for the SEC championship? Well, that depends on who the winner is. If LSU wins, I think LSU's really in the driver's seat for the SEC championship with one SEC loss. Alabama has 2 SEC losses. So I think they're out of it no matter what. I don't think Alabama can get in with a win. I do think they can make the college football playoff. But yeah, generally speaking, I'm expecting an SEC team with 3 losses to have about a 20% chance of making the playoffs. So I don't think either one of these teams has done anything remarkable enough with their schedule where they're going to look up at the end of the day and have a chance to punch their way into the playoffs at 9-3. I think both teams are on effectively a 4-game playoff right now. It is play for your life. I think this is the one game that is probably toughest for both teams on their schedule. I don't have Alabama's in front of me, but I do they play Auburn coming up. But I mean, for LSU, you've got Oklahoma, who that's not looking, tough. Vanderbilt, who is looking tough, but it's Vanderbilt. And then you got Florida, who may well come into that game with a 3rd-string quarterback. So, yeah, I think effectively this is a knockout punch. Barring insanity, right? I mean, this season does have some 07 vibes to it. But until I see that insanity play out, I'm going to say 9-3 isn't going to be good enough for this LSU, especially you've got an ugly loss to USC. Is USC – did I see what are they now? They're 3 and
what are they,
5?
4-4? That loss is aging like milk. It's ridiculous.
It does not look good. So that will be held against LSU. I think 10-2 is what it takes to get in. And then you have to consider – if LSU does make the SEC championship, how are they going to hold that against if LSU doesn't win the SEC champion? Okay, yeah, 4-5 is what.
4-5.
Yeah, I was going to say 4-5. Then I was like, wait, are we really 9 games into the season? And yeah, unbelievable, right? Yeah. So appreciate you that for the assist there, Carvis. That being said, we'll touch on Saints. Okay, and then we'll just – I know this isn't a Saints show, but my goodness, Dennis Allen fired today. Were you shocked they didn't wait till Black Monday? I wonder what the reasoning behind it was.
I obviously being a New Orleans native, grew up a Saints fan, was there for the NFC Championship game when they punched their ticket to the Super Bowl, the whole 9 yards. And for me, I've been waiting for this news to come out for quite some time. Never thought Dennis Allen was quite the fit, and ultimately they kicked him to the curb. So I think it's time for a new – kind of era of Saints football. And there's a lot of candidates that are worthy. We'll see what direction they go in. But for me, it's been a long time coming. I wish they would have done it sooner. And you never want to wish somebody to lose a job, obviously. But when it comes to the Saints, you want to see them in position to be successful. Dennis Allen wasn't the guy to do that. And here we are, time for a new era of Saints football.
Yeah, I think this collapse, this 7 straight, and then losing to the team that you beat by like 100 points week 1.
Right.
I think it was time. I think it was a matter of when, not if. And they just decided to do it. I guess the reason I did want to fire him immediately was you really want to tank for a good quarterback. Even if you don't like the quarterbacks this year, trade back. I mean, get a good quarterback to build around. You're probably going to end up going with a solid Trenchman or something like that if you draft early this year, just because the quarterbacks aren't great. I know you got Cam Ward and Shador Sanders, but opinions on them are all over the place. But anyways, that being said, candidates are looking like Ben Johnson, offensive coordinator for the Lions. Of course, you've got Mike Vrabel and Mike Vrabel. I said Vrabel because I was thinking about Bill Belichick is also out there. Both those guys are unemployed. I've got some concerns about Belichick. Obviously, probably if you had to poll people on who the greatest coach of all time is, he's probably near the top of that list, if not the top. But I think he's a little old, and I think Brady kind of carried a lot of his legacy. We'll see. on that, we're also hearing a little bit of Joe Brady buzz out there, which is an interesting one. Are there any names? Look, Mike's chiming in too. Todd Monken for the Saints. That's an interesting one. Do you have any names I left off there, Zach?
Aaron Glenn is a name that I've kind of been hearing a little bit about as well. That'd be one to kind of keep tabs on too, but you hit the nail on the head there with those candidates. So the options are endless. They've got some guys that they can attack, but you got to nail this hire and hit it at the park. So again, really intrigued to see where they go. And Gruden's a funny one too as well, Mike.
That's not going to be who the next coach is. That's pretty funny. And of course, a lot of people are also sitting there. Loomis has got to go. And it's really, it's hard to argue that if we're being honest. So, of course, we're going to hear a lot of joke names and all that stuff going on, but we'll see. I like the Ben Johnson name. I like Mike Vrabel. A lot of people might think I'm insane, but I like what Joe Brady's doing in Buffalo right now. If you look at Josh Allen is on pace to throw the least interceptions of his entire career. So chuckle that one away all you want, but there's something about that bright young offensive mastermind that, you can strike gold in the NFL with those guys. So
I think that's what you have to do. I think it's important to bring in a young guy to rejuvenate the franchise. So I think that's a fantastic pull.
You actually, so you don't hate the Joe Brady hire. I know a lot of guys are kind of like laughing when we bring that up, but I'm like,
I haven't seen much like buzz about that on social media. Obviously, that's not like my wheelhouse or our wheelhouse or anything. But when it comes down to it, look, at some point you got to go younger and like to rejuvenate the franchise in a way. And if it's a young guy like Joe Brady, so be it. So no, I don't hate that at all.
It checks a lot of boxes, but we're probably being naive if we're not admitting that it's probably a little bit of local fan bias cooking that name up a little higher than it should be. But I do know he's had interviews for head coaching jobs. Like, he has been seriously considered in the past. He was also seriously considered before getting fired at Carolina. I still think he got a raw deal at Carolina. I think he was just a sacrificial lamb to save Matt Rule's job, which he inevitably did get fired. So is what it is. We'll move on from the Saints. Best of luck to Gail Benson and company figuring out that. I know the state of Louisiana and the city of New Orleans certainly need more than what they're getting out of the Saints currently. Bryce Underwood. There's been a lot of buzz about Michigan coming to him. And I'll say this. It's been real mum from the Bryce Underwood camp of things. A year ago, it actually wasn't all that difficult to get reports directly from Bryce and his family now. Phone numbers have been changed. I'm having more difficulty. People I'm talking to now who were loose-lipped a year ago and giving me all sorts of good stuff are now all of a sudden being really tight-lipped. So from the Bryce camp, that being said, I was able to poke around with some sources familiar with the LSU program side of things. And, I'm hearing that they're acknowledging that there's a battle with Michigan going on right now. But the way they're putting it is this is the kind of stuff you expect for when you have a recruit like Bryce on board. It's nothing out of the ordinary is what I'm told. Of course, a program like Michigan is going to come with a big offer to keep him home. I'm also told that LSU right now still expects him to sign, as evidenced by Joe Sloan having an excellent visit with him, which I'm told went very well. On Friday, he went to Belleville High School, and he's coming back to LSU for an official visit Saturday night against LSU, and that will tell you a lot more. I'm also hearing that he hasn't visited Michigan in any official capacity since Sharon Moore took over that program. So all that leads me to believe, I think if you want me to just read in between the tea leaves, all of what I've all of what I've seen, I think Bryce is taking it very seriously because it's a lot of money. And he's going to try to come back with a counter offer. But I still, until I see something different, I'm not saying it's a lock or anything like that, because what really is a sure thing in recruiting, especially these days, I still do expect LSU to close on this guy until I hear updated information. I'm particularly looking forward to hearing how his official visit goes. Zach, do you have any comments on any of that?
Yeah, no, look, I think when you hear the reports of a $5 million NIL package being thrown his way and whatnot, it's hard for a guy like Bryce Underwood to not obviously take it seriously. But at the end of the day, LSU knew that this was happening. Communication hasn't wavered on the LSU side of things, and LSU was made aware that there was dialogue between Michigan's camp and Underwood as well. So nothing caught them by surprise, like Preston said. I can double down
Right.
on that, but it's something that it comes with the territory of getting a guy to commit like Bryce Underwood, someone of his caliber. It's the number one player in America. This is a guy who is a program-changing player. He's a unicorn. So you're going to have the hometown team 30 minutes down the road pushing for him until the final buzzer. This is no surprise. But ultimately, when it comes down to it, his actions have spoken louder than words. I know, like you said, it's been kind of mum from the Underwood camp. And to me, like you said, his actions speak louder than words. For him to commit on January 6th of 2024 and not visit Michigan in any capacity, unofficial or official, he hasn't visited anywhere else. I think that
Right.
speaks volumes to the type of recruit that he is and where his head's at right now. So, like Preston said, again, going to double down on it myself. I think all signs point towards him putting pen to paper during the early signing period and moving on from there. But yeah, certainly some buzz. It's hard to not take a massive NIL package seriously. But like you said, actions speak louder than words. Joe Sloan flew up to Michigan and had a great in-person visit with his family and them for that game. Now we fast forward to this weekend where he's going to bring a monster amount of people down south with him for the official visit to Alabama. He'll get here on Saturday after his playoff game Friday, and we'll see what happens there. But kind of just
When you say
reiterating,
monster amount of people, can you clarify on that? Can you
yeah, he's going to be
expand
bringing
upon
some
that?
extended family in town. It's going to be kind of a big group with him, kind of just looking for LSU to close the deal here and move on. But he's going to get here on Saturday and be in town for the Alabama game. And this is closing time. This is where you kind of solidify everything and kind of get everything moving and finish things off here. But it's a big time player. You knew this was going to happen, and here we are. Like you said, I think he puts pen to paper in December.
By the way, that's been Bryce's MO his whole time. Is he's brought a lot of his family. It sounds like he's bringing the most ever this time. So I don't know. To me, a lot of times with these recruiting situations, create a conclusion in your head, right? Let's say the conclusion is that he is signing with LSU, but he is a smart young man who's going to listen to another school when they come forward with a bigger offer, and he's going to try to, work that for as much money as possible on both ends. Wouldn't that do the actions align with the conclusion a lot of times? And that's kind of how you read the tea leaves of this situation. And to me, that's the conclusion that makes the most sense. It is recruiting and things change on a dime, but I don't dislike where LSU's at in this position. I think that you were naive if you thought Michigan was just going to go all the way to signing day without making any sort of push to keep him home. That's just not the way. How many times do you see a Louisiana kid committed elsewhere and LSU puts a last minute push to try to get him? I mean, it's just, that's the nature of how these things work. I want to real quick before we dive too deep into recruiting, I want to get my first ad break in, but we'll be back right after that. We're going to dive into more recruiting. LSU, of course, has a monster list of recruits on campus this week. We're going to talk college game day. We're going to talk health of the team, all that kind of good stuff. And eventually we will get to, the game prediction itself. But before I do that, guys, I got to talk to y'all about our sponsors, and I'm trying to pull something up here. Of course, guys, I'm going to tell you about Celebrity Theaters, guys. They do their weekly savings, which makes it more affordable than ever to go check out their theater there. They've got Monday, where it's Senior Savings Day, where they've got $5 admission for patrons all over the age of 55 all day. They've got Bargain Tuesday, where they get discounted movie tickets and concessions all day on Tuesday. Wednesday is half-priced arcades for college night. And of course, Thirsty Thursday, where they've got discounted beer, wine, and frozen drinks after 5 p.m. Guys, remember, they are Louisiana's only locally owned and operated theater. Because of that, you're going to be promised a clean facility, better pricing, superior customer service, state-of-the-art technology, and of course, the largest arcade in town at the Baton Rouge location, a bar featuring beer, wine, and frozen drinks, oversized leather reclining seats at every location, and of course, the Dolby Atmos 3D sound system. And guys, all TigerBait live shows this year are proudly brought to you this football season by Struby's Seafood and Steaks, located on 107 3rd Street in downtown Baton Rouge. Struby's prides itself on providing a 5-star dining experience for a reasonable price. Struby's is locally owned with ownership in the building daily, taking a level of pride in its food and service that you're just not going to see from any old corporate establishment. Struby's features a full menu of specialty foods, including USDA Prime Black Angus steaks, 100% certified Wagyu New York strip, and for those looking for something outside of red meat, they offer items such as the dry-aged pork chop, black truffle lobster pasta, redfish, and plenty more. Book your reservation online at strubys.com. Make sure to let them know that TigerBait sent you in. Guys, going to talk to y'all real quick about our friends at Rejuvame.
At Rejuvame, we specialize in medically monitored hormone and weight loss therapy, giving you the energy you need for all life's challenges. Let us be your age-defying clinic. Restore me, refuel me, Rejuvame. RejuvameMedical.com.
Change the way you feel at Rejuvame Medical by creating a customizable treatment plans based on your goals. Rejuvame can lead you to success. Visit RejuvameMedical.com for more.
Drive-in style and luxury with a new Genesis from Genesis of Lafayette. Buy a 2023 Genesis G70 3.3T Sport Prestige Executive Demo and pay only $39,870. Buy a new 2025 GB70 and take $2,000 off the MSRP with value owner, competitive only incentive, plus finance for 2.99% APR for 60 months or 3.99% APR for 72 months. Don't forget to start your shopping online by visiting genesisoflafayette.com.
Guys, there's a reason they sell more Genesis than any other dealer in Louisiana. For the very best buyer experience of a new or luxury SUV or sedan, call them toll-free to set up your test drive, 877-856-2961, and tell them TigerBait sent you in. All righty, let's see. Do we have any good comments here? Scarborough, yeah, Saints, $75 million hole if you bring in the greatest coach of all time. It's a word I'm not going to read here because Mike's breaking our own rules of being PG. He's talking about Belichick. And I'm going to tell you the number one reason I'm opposed to Belichick. I got Ditka PTSD. Doesn't that just eerily remind you of the Mike Ditka situation with the Saints?
It does, but then it goes like I'd be contradicting myself if I said that I wanted Belichick, just because I've talked numerous times, and including here on this show, that I think you need to go in the direction of a younger guy to come in and rejuvenate the franchise. So yeah, no, there's definitely some similarities to Ditka and whatnot, but for me, I'm looking forward to hopefully them bringing in a young buck to handle business.
Okay, so this weekend for LSU, you've got a monster list of recruits. You've got guys from 2028, 2027, 2026, 2025. You've got 20 plus guys who are committed to the class of 2025 who will be on campus, right? So huge deal. That includes Bryce Underwood. Now, what I found really interesting about the visitor list, which by the way is posted on TigerBait.com, y'all can go check it out on the Tiger Den forum there. There are 3 players who will be visiting LSU this weekend who have been named at one point during their recruiting process the number 1 player in their respective class. Zack, here's a little trivia. Can you name the 3 who will be on LSU's campus who have been named at one point during their recruiting process the number 1 player in the country?
The number 1 player in the country overall?
Yep, overall.
So you got Bryce and Jakeem, of course.
Yep, there's 2. Yep.
Not Lamar.
Although he will be there. Lamar Brown, the talented offensive.
It'll probably be Jakeem, Elijah Haven, and Bryce.
Elijah Haven, that's the one.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. 3 for 3. I knew you could get it. I wasn't going to ask you something you couldn't get. But yeah, no, him and Harlem Berry and lots of highly recruited guys. Jakeem Stewart, of course, is probably the biggest gem for your 2025 class that's uncommitted. There might be some guys you can flip in this class, but we'll see how that goes. Keelan Moses will be on campus. Charles Ross, CJ Ross, guy who has quietly, I had to give him some love the other day. Uh-oh.
Yeah, Preston did freeze up. I'll wait until he comes back. But on the recruiting front, look, this is going to be a massive weekend for the program as a whole. You have a primetime clash in Tiger Stadium, and you're going to have some massive names in town, like you said, Bryce Underwood, DJ Pickett, Charles Ross, etc. It's a visitors list that goes deep and even deeper when you look into the 2027 class as well. We kind of just alluded to Elijah Haven making his way in town as well. So it's a massive list. And when you look at the cornerback class, this is a big weekend as well. DJ Pickett will make his way back to town, and we've seen him visit Miami. We've seen him kind of stay in contact with other programs, and this is the opportunity for the team to kind of close and get things done, not just for Underwood, but also a guy like DJ Pickett, also a guy like Jakeem Stewart. So it's a massive weekend on the recruiting front and an opportunity for this program to close on some guys that are critical to the success of the future of the program. I see Preston's back. I don't know if his connection's back. But I can keep going. When you look at the recruiting list as a whole, it doesn't get much bigger than this. A couple guys just to list, like Bryce Underwood, Harlem Berry, DJ Pickett, Charles Ross, Cade Phillips. I see a question in the chat just talking about the cornerback staying with LSU. And when you look at this class, it's a program-changing class. You have DJ Pickett. You have Cade Phillips. You have Aiden Anning, etc. And Corey Raymond hit the road last week and went and checked out a couple of those guys in person. He went and flew to Florida and saw DJ Pickett. He saw Aiden Anning already. He's seen Cade Phillips. So it goes on. And maybe we got Preston back here to chime in. But look, it's an opportunity to do what you can here, and it's significant. And I know another guy that we wanted to talk about here was going to be Derek Meadows. Look, him going to check out Michigan is significant in my opinion. His family's from Michigan. He was born there. So for him to go up there and check out that campus and that
Zach,
program,
did I lose you?
No, we're here.
Guys, I apologize if you can hear me still. I am trying my best to get things up and rolling. Zach, can you hear me?
Yeah, we're here.
Okay. Guys, I sincerely apologize about that. I don't know what the heck happened. I had some bizarre internet connectivity issues there. Stream seemed to be going fine, and I don't know where my
Here, Preston, why don't you reboot up? You're frozen on that end, so why don't you leave real quick, reboot it, and come right back in? I can handle a little bit of recruiting here while you reboot. No worries at all.
Zach, just read some comments if you can, and while I figure this out. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, no worries. I'm going to read the chat a little bit here. We got guys asking about basketball on that front. Obviously, the main name there is going to be Chris Senack making his way to town. And a lot of people have been following that recruitment pretty heavily, me included. This is one where it's a Louisiana native. Obviously, he's playing his ball up at Link Academy, but the Blue Bloods are in now. The Blue Bloods are in for a guy like Chris Senack, and LSU's going to pop in and get the last official visit before he kind of shuts his process down and puts pen to paper during the early period. I'm excited to see what happens now, but this is one that you have to watch until the final buzzer. You got Kansas, you got Tennessee, etc., really pushing for him. And LSU's going to get him in town this weekend, bringing in one of his teammates as well. So this is a massive weekend for the basketball front too. So I'm intrigued to see what happens there. And one more time before we bring Preston back in, I know he's still fixing some Wi-Fi stuff right now. A question from LA Mom 2020. It says, as Jakeem said when he's going to announce his commitment, look, all signs point to him committing on December 4th once that early signing period kicks off and begins. So I'm excited to see what happens here, but he'll be in town this weekend for his official visit with LSU. He'll check out Ohio State. He'll be back with Oregon, etc. So Jakeem's certainly making the most of this recruiting process. And it's pivotal for Frank Wilson and the rest of the staff to get in front of it, get him in town and get some face time. This is a guy who is obviously going to be demanding a heavy chunk of change. LSU knows that, but at the end of the day, there's a reason why you swing for the fences with a player of his caliber. So it's going to be big time. We're going to see what happens this weekend, but obviously Jakeem Stewart, Bryce Underwood, etc. are going to be those pivotal names to keep tabs on. So looks like Preston's back in full swing. The connection.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Hand him the floor back.
Can you hear me good now, Zach?
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
All right. I had to, man, we got some glazing going on the comments of you right now, and deservedly so. That's a crazy freak thing, but I think we all know sometimes internet issues happen. You've got the fiber optic cable.
We switched. I had to switch on this part. I was telling you earlier, like the beginning of the season, man, my connection was, I won't say the words that I want to say, but my connection was quite bad. So I had to switch, get rid of, I don't know
Right.
if we can say providers on here, but I had to get
Oh,
rid of one
F them.
provider.
Cox. Yeah.
Yeah, I had to
I
get rid of
dropped
Cox
them.
because
Yeah.
it was dog
Yeah.
S word. Now I had to
Yeah.
switch back, get some AT&T fiber, and it's cooking for me on this end. So obviously we might have to get you some fiber as well on that end.
It is a frustrating issue because I literally pay the highest package possible. And yeah, no, I just cannot get them to upgrade my street or whatever. And sometimes, particularly on the upload, that was a freak issue because my entire internet died out on me. I think we've had some times where like the upload gets a little slow. That just completely died out of nowhere. And that's never happened to me before. That's a strange issue. But of course, we got you here. You're a pro, as always, here to carry the show. But let's get back to we talked a good bit about recruiting. Derek Meadows, LSU. Now, I think one service, maybe 247, has him as a 5-star. The rest consensus have him about top 50-ish player. He's taking an official visit to Michigan. Now, there's two thoughts here. Number one, are you concerned about losing Derek Meadows, which he is a Michigan native? So there's that. I think there's some legitimate concern. Michigan's an outstanding program, and a receiver like him, you should be worried about losing it. But then, of course, there's a lot of buzz that goes a level beyond that of, well, does that mean Bryce Underwood is going to Michigan as well? I would say probably the two. They're separate entities. If they were going to be a package deal, wouldn't they be visiting together?
Yeah, look, I think the Derek Meadows recruitment's a unique one. I've spoken to a couple people about it, and he has that Michigan unofficial visit in the rearview mirror. He was there for the matchup last weekend when they took on the number 1 team in the country, Oregon. Fast forward to next weekend, he'll be in South Bend checking out Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish. So it's a unique recruitment process just because he hasn't taken that unofficial or official visit with LSU just yet. He hasn't come in for a game day, and maybe he'll come in the following weekend, maybe for Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, etc. But as it stands right now, we have not seen a guy we haven't seen Derek Meadows take that unofficial or official visit for a game day just yet. So interesting recruitment. He kind of committed to LSU out of nowhere over the summer. He came for a midweek visit and then ultimately committed in, I think it was July. And you had schools like Michigan and Notre Dame as his finalists. So he's still keeping his options open. He obviously checked out Michigan already, and he's got Notre Dame lined up next weekend. So we'll see what happens there on that front. But certainly an interesting situation with a guy of his caliber. You don't want to lose him, and you're going to see Cortez Hankton kind of put his foot on the gas here until signing day.
Yeah, you kind of need it. Not to mention, Caleb Cunningham is still a guy. The guy, 5-star receiver committed to Bama, who's probably better than Derek Meadows, if we're being honest. But you need your kind of signature weapon through the air in this class. Now, a lot of people keep on saying out of nowhere with Derek Meadows, which I get what people are saying with that. But I will say it didn't come necessarily out of nowhere. It came on the heels of DeCorian Moore decommitting and committing to Oregon. So that is where I see that as like, oh, okay. So they especially with the way NIL funds work nowadays, it's like, all right, well, we had all this committed to DeCorian Moore. Let's at least make an offer to this guy. And that's kind of where I see it. I mean, obviously don't have any behind the scenes details there, but that's kind of where I saw that coming from. That being said, I got a comment here that I kind of want you to address. Todd Davis, the basketball team not picked in the top 7. Crazy. Is that crazy to you, Zack?
I think when it comes to LSU basketball, there's going to be so much recency bias where a lot of people they're going to kind of overlook the roster that McMahon's constructed. And for me, I think McMahon is a serviceable team right now. I don't think it's an NCAA tournament caliber team, but he's a serviceable team. And you brought in some really impressive true freshmen to come in right now, like Robert Miller, Curtis Givens, etc. So you're building for the long haul. You have a lot of talent. I'm not quite sure the talent is prepared for the moment right now, and the moment being the NCAA tournament. Obviously, you have some blue chippers who are ready to contribute right now. But when I say the moment, I refer to the NCAA tournament. I don't think they're a tournament team quite yet. I hope they prove me wrong because I don't know if I want anyone to succeed more than I want to see Matt McMahon succeed. I think he's a fantastic coach, fantastic person, and he's sitting in the recruiting chair with force. So, look, them not being in the top 70 is a little eye-opening, but I think it's just laziness on a lot of the national media who are kind of covering college basketball. I think it's lazy by overlooking what LSU's doing right now.
Yeah, I would say everything I've seen is that they should be a fringe, like at least close to making the tournament this
Correct.
year. Now, I think that, that's pretty close to where your expectations should be for this program. They should be making it each and every year. We're going to get to our final ad break here. It is a little early to knock out our final ad break, but I figure it's a good time to knock that out, and then we can kind of get to our final segment, get to some comments, talk. There's an actual football game being played, more so than just recruits coming to town. So we'll give us a nice extended time to talk about the actual game itself, guys. And y'all know who makes our show possible as our title sponsor every year. It's Celebrity Theaters, guys. My mom took her fourth grade class out to a private screening of that movie I was telling you about, A Wild Robot, last week, and it was just an outstanding experience. All the kids loved it. They did a costume party. Really special time, and that's what they do at Celebrity Theaters. They do a good job making these things special for you. So whether you're looking to host a birthday party, private movie screening, corporate meeting, arcade party, whatever you're looking for, guys, they've got the perfect facility to feature needs with either 8 or 10 auditoriums at their locations. You can go book your event, celebritytheaters.com/events, or give them an email, events@celebritytheaters.com, to reserve yours. And guys, we got to talk to y'all about our friends, Alumni Hall. Guys, I'm going to tell you the best place to get all your officially licensed LSU gear. It's Alumni Hall. They're your ultimate shopping destination for LSU fans. They've got it all the Nike gear, Champion, Johnny O, Onward Reserve, Peter Millar, Southern Tide, and more. They've got nice polos you've been looking for, the hats, the Yeti, the LSU gear coming daily. And guys, don't forget, we've got a discount code for all TigerBait viewers and subscribers. So when you shop, use the code TigerBait, all one word, TigerBait, in store or online to get 10% off your purchase. Go shop with my friends at Alumni Hall and use TigerBait to save. Let's see here. Guys, one thing we try to do with all of our TigerBait sponsorships is partner with locally owned businesses we've experienced firsthand and know we can trust to provide an outstanding experience for our listeners. This football season, we're proud to add Capital City Grill to that lineup. Located on 100 Lafayette Street in downtown Baton Rouge, Capital City Grill is your ideal lunch and dinner stop for a casual dining experience. Capital City Grill features a variety of sandwiches, burgers, seafood, pastas, steaks, and more, with almost everything priced at $30 or below for an affordable experience. Don't forget to celebrate a Tigers win at their Sunday morning brunch, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Book your reservation online at capitalcitygrill.net. Make sure to let them know that TigerBait sent you in. All right. LSU basketball has to prove they belong at the top. They have potential, but they have to show it. That's kind of, I think
it's ultimately what it comes down to. Like, obviously, you have the talent. You've done some really good roster reconstruction here, and now it's about proving that you can hang the SEC, who's deep as all hell when it comes to basketball right now. I mean, it's not just football with this conference. They're starting to do some really good things on the basketball front as well. So I think that's well said. Prove that you can hang with the big boys and move from there. So big moment for McMahon this season. He's got an opportunity to showcase what he's all about.
LSU does play Alabama this weekend, hopefully. There is a named storm in the Gulf right now that is currently projected to hit Baton Rouge on Saturday, right? But that being said, I mean, you got your credential email today, and it sounds like business as usual. I mean, there was a brief mention at BK's. Mike's at the women's basketball game right now, and they're kind of moving along business as usual over there. It seems to me that the current approach is let's wait and see. Before we do anything drastic, let's see how the weather actually, because it could go. I was watching Josh Ichis on WBRZ today, and he was talking about if it's a slow moving storm, it's going to veer west to Texas. If it's a quickly moving storm, it's going to veer east to Florida. But if it moves at an average pace, it will be hitting Louisiana. So we'll see. It could miss Louisiana. It could miss Baton Rouge by hundreds of miles, or it could be a smack dab land on Saturday night. I will say this. The sad part is how it's projected to move. Like, it's just the fact that there would be a tropical storm hitting at game time, and even a lightning strike is
Or
enough
in
to delay the
November.
game.
Like what?
In
Like,
November, man, that should be illegal.
agreed.
Anyways,
But look, like you said, operating as business as usual right now. We'll have player interviews tomorrow. BK on the SEC teleconference Wednesday.
I'm saying.
Thursday, he'll do his thing. So for right now, business as usual, and kind of play it by ear and see what happens. But we're obviously hoping for the best here and get some SEC action in Tiger Stadium on Saturday night.
I think if the storm is gone within 12 hours of the game, it's not going to be serious enough, and they'll play ball. They'll play ball. It's just the way it's projected, the time they can't play during a tropical storm. We'll see. I tend to believe more likely than not game will be played as usual and everything will be fine. But we'll see. College game day coming to town. We have to assume that they will be here as scheduled. Game day pickers. If you had to pick a game day picker, who would you go with?
It's Kim Mulkey. I have to go with Kim Mulkey. And I know, but I feel like in a way that's almost kind of like a casual take. But for me, I'd love to see Mulkey get up there with Nick Saban and the rest of the college game day crew. When you look at a couple weeks back when LSU was in Columbia, South Carolina, the guest picker was none other than Dawn Staley, the South Carolina women's basketball coach. So for me, fast forward now a couple weeks to where game day's in BR. Why not have Kim Mulkey take the stage and become that college game day guest picker? I think she's got the personality for it. You put her alongside another just legendary head coach in Nick Saban. I think it'd be fantastic to see her be the guest picker this weekend. I think she'd be fun. I think it'd provide game day with another kind of boisterous, outgoing, fun personality. I'd love to see Kim Mulkey get up there, but the options are endless, and I know you're going to get into a couple of them.
I think in terms of who would be the most fun to watch on there is Mulkey. Mulkey would be so much fun. She's such a big personality and so much fun. And just look at the views on our YouTube channel. And anytime Kim Mulkey's up there, it blows up darn near. So she would be a lot of fun. That being said, if we're talking about biggest name, yeah, she's up there for sure. But I mean, think about the buzz like a Joe Burrow, who, by the way, plays on Thursday night, would bring. That'd be great to bring Joe. That'd be my number one. And Joe's always good for a one-liner or two. Probably not as interesting for 10 picks in a row as Kim Mulkey. But I'll tell you what, if they ask Kim Mulkey, she's going to do it because she has a chance. She's on campus already. She has a great chance to promote her program. Joe Burrow is going to be a hard one to sell to get up there. But another good idea I heard was the power couple, Livy Dunn and Paul Skeens. If you want to talk about social influence, those two would be near the top, right? I mean, that'd be.
It would.
They'd probably be the most boring to listen to talk, though.
Yeah, Paul Skeens doesn't quite have the personality to get up there with Saban, McAfee, etc. But he has the credentials to do that. Obviously, former number one pick, etc. So. Right. He's a legend in Baton Rouge. Not quite sure his personality to get up there, but the options are endless. You got Kim Mulkey, you got Angel Reese, you have Paul Skeens, Livy Dunn, etc. The list goes on and on. And I know they're not scared to do kind of repeat people as well. We know Lil Wayne's gone up there before for college game day. He was a guy who was up there, 2016 maybe? So
he was horrible, though.
Who knows?
He was so bad with his picks.
Yeah.
Look, we got the glazing of Zack tonight. Stephanie Geebies. Is this someone you know? Did you plant someone in the show?
No, I have no idea who that is. Steffi
Geebies. All right. Well, you might need to watch out. We need to send that to Mrs. Nagy. I think one of the things that really piqued my interest when talking about the guest pickers is, and by the way, Shaq is an option. They've brought him up there before. He absolutely is an option. Probably if they ask him to do it, he'll do it. It's just they try to get different names up there. The thing is talk about those guys. Throw in an Angel Reese. Throw in a Mondo Duplantis. Maybe even Sha'Carri Richardson. And what dawned on me is how many new bona fide superstars you can add to this list from the last time they did college game day. Because am I correct? This is the first time in 5 years they're doing it at LSU, right?
Yep. First time since 2019.
Yeah. First time since 2019. Right. And you did not have, Angel Reese we didn't know her yet. Livy Dunn, Paul Skeens, even a Dylan Cruz, if you want to throw him in that mix. Didn't have any of them. Kim Mulkey wasn't here yet. Or maybe she was here and it was like her first season. So she wasn't here yet.
Mm-mm.
Okay. All right. Kim Mulkey wasn't here. Now she was already a star, but she wasn't at LSU. And all of a sudden you're starting to Angel Reese, you're starting to realize that a lot of stars have come out of LSU recently, more so than just on the field, more so in the social spectrum. Very interesting. I think whatever it is, they'll be able to find someone very interesting. I hope they don't go, someone that they've done already. Not that I don't love Shaq and he isn't very interesting. I just think, I don't know. My thought was on Burrow is you might be 10 years before these stars align again, where he's playing on a Thursday or has a bye week and LSU is hosting game day. You might go the rest of his career.
The stars are aligning for somebody like Burrow to make his way to the stage. So the options are endless. I'm excited to see where they go, to be honest. Do they decide on Wednesday? I don't know what
So I checked it up last week. Let's see. It was Thursday that they decided last week. Or at least they tweeted it on Thursday. So it seems kind of late in the week, doesn't it?
Yeah, I feel like that's the case.
Yeah. And look, they might wait a little bit later this week. Number one, I'm going to say this word just one time, and I'm not saying it again the whole show. There's an election this week. Number two, we're going to quickly move on from that. Number two, there's weather and things like that going on, which may change the logistics. I think no matter what, it changes their logistics up a little bit, but we'll see. M. Caval, since 2019, no one has done social media like LSU, and that's a big part of it, man. I mean, LSU was big to embrace social media and the power of it really early. Carl Dunn does not want Angel Reese. You know what's funny is a lot of people were like aggressively, adamantly opposed to Angel Reese. I don't know.
Love her, hate her. She's an iconic face of sports right now, and I get both angles. I don't have an opinion on it, but she's relatively good for the LSU brand, and I don't know if they'll go that direction, but love her or hate her, she's been big for the LSU brand as a whole. So I can't say much other than she brought a national championship to Baton Rouge, and she's pretty iconic in the sports world to say as little as possible.
Oops. It all started with Will Stout's hype videos, which that's a big part of it. But, I would be very short-sighted if I didn't give a lot of credit to Cody Worsham, who's moved on to USC. I'd be very short-sighted if I didn't give credit to Brandon Barrio, who is now, I believe he's their director of creative communication, something like that at LSU now, who, I interned at the SID with him, and it's nice to see, he's gone on to really do some big things. And the graphics team, I mean, it's really been a good team effort at LSU in terms of branding itself, but also embracing the culture. Scott Woodward has a phrase he uses, in chaos, there is opportunity. And that's exactly how they saw the whole NIL thing. And they're like, well, we could buy in on this, and Brandon is definitely still there. I see him every weekend there. Yeah, nice to see my former coworker tearing it up like that. It's just a real cultural shift where I think that a lot of Louisiana culture and a lot of other people in high up positions in Louisiana may have been hesitant to go into this spectrum and sphere. LSU went head on to it. So now when LSU has all these superstars all over the country, don't be surprised. It's a cultural shift, man. In terms of the game itself, this is probably the worst Alabama team that's taken the field. I'm thinking since 2007, which even that 2007 team was gritty and tough for Alabama. I think the 2010 Alabama team went 9-3 in the regular season, but I mean, my goodness, that was still, you had McElroy and Mark Ingram on that team. And that was still a talented team. They just lost 3 games. They lost a tough game.
Kind of, sorry to interrupt, but just this is your time to kind of throw that jab post Nick Saban era, in my opinion. And I feel like, obviously, I've said it time and time again, like a broken record, the stakes couldn't be higher. But for me, it's to kind of just throw your jab post Nick Saban era and kind of prove that LSU's kind of ready to lead and kind of take over this rivalry and move on forward. But to what you're saying, yeah, it's one of the quote unquote least talented Alabama teams we've seen in a little bit. Obviously, they got talent like Milroe, the freshman Ryan Williams, et cetera. They got talent on the defensive side as well. So it's still Alabama. You still got some dudes, but it's time for Brian Kelly to once again kind of push LSU in the front and really take over post Saban era.
Yeah, it set the tone, Yeah. So there's that, and not to mention it is a knockout blow. It is whoever wins this is in really good shape to make the playoffs. Whoever loses it is done. And look, man, people used to make fun of bad bowl games, call them the Circle K Bowl. They're all the Circle K Bowl now. They're all trash now. I promise you, there's not a soul on the earth. Anybody who's anybody wants to be in the playoffs now. So I promise you, any bowl game is going to be like basically an embarrassment to your program if you consider yourself a playoff contender. So you got to get the win. The problem is that it's almost like neither one of these teams I trust to win this game. LSU had an implosion. Like, man, I haven't seen that second half implosion was probably the worst I've seen LSU implode as a team. Sans, the 2020, 2021 era. Maybe 2017 against Mississippi State was really bad.
You've seen it more, like you have more under your belt when it comes to LSU teams, obviously. But for me, even just being a football fan and a guy who's watched LSU for a decade, two, et cetera, that was one of the worst implosions I've seen from a team.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know if I've seen something like that in quite some time, but it's in the rearview mirror. That second half against A&M, put it away. It's an outlier, and now it's kind of moved forward, and you got an Alabama team who's clicking. I mean, they're what?
My point is
over Missouri.
The issues we saw in the second half against A&M, those weren't new issues.
Exactly.
All the issues we saw, anemic running game, check. We saw that before. Nussmeier's tendency to get trigger happy and throw picks, check. We saw that one, although it hit itself for a while. We've seen that one before. LSU's defense inability to adapt to a running quarterback. By the way, that's coming back this weekend. Check. Seen that one before. I just seem throughout Brian Kelly's tenure, he's been really adaptable, and he's made good adjustments when LSU had problems, right? And I think that they'll get a lot of that cleaned up. I can trust neither team to win this game, but you know what I can trust? Tiger Stadium to show up on a Saturday night in Death Valley, and Brian Kelly is undefeated under the lights in Death Valley, and I believe LSU's won like 90+% of its games since 2000 in that situation.
You broke it down. You had the
I did
for us and everything.
That doesn't mean I have it remembered right now in front of me, but I did. Yeah, no, well, it's on my Twitter somewhere.
Preston's done the research.
I've done the homework, and I can tell you, synopsis, spoiler alert, LSU doesn't freaking lose unless it's Nick Saban coming to town, and Nick Saban ain't coming with Alabama this weekend. Yeah. So that's another part of setting the tone. Was it Nick Saban or was it Alabama? And we'll find out. I think that this is big for a lot of reasons. Obviously, we're no stranger to high stakes in this game. It's funny because usually the loser of this game is knocked out of a 4-team playoff. Now the loser's knocked out of a 12-team playoff. So it's like the bar has been moved, but the teams went with the bar. So top 15 matchup. I'm going to take LSU to win, but that doesn't mean it's a lock. I mean, if LSU shows up the way it showed up in the second half against Texas A&M, this game won't be close. I mean, it's going to be ugly if that team shows up again. But, if the team that showed up for the first half against Texas A&M shows up and they actually execute in a few more situations, the way I put it, they had a chance to put the foot in the neck and chop down against A&M to where a comeback wouldn't have mattered. And they didn't do it. So instead of being able to run the clock out and milk time and push them off, which they would have done, they had to throw it out. And Nussmeier threw picks and gave him the ball on the 20. And next thing you know, you get scored 31-7. So that's the way I look at this Bama game. I don't trust either team. I think both teams have some serious issues, but I know one thing that always shows up, and that's Tiger Stadium. What's your thoughts on the game, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's going to be an absolute just party in Death Valley on Saturday night. Obviously, you know that the fan base is going to show out. You know Alabama's going to travel well as well. It's a college football playoff elimination game, but when I look at it, I'm a fan of kind of the analytical side of things and the numbers, and the numbers all point towards a team like LSU coming out and winning this game for better or for worse. And the main number for me is Brian Kelly being 13-0 in night games in Tiger Stadium, and for me that's big. I know if you look at the ESPN Football Power Index, their kind of prediction gives Alabama a 70% chance to LSU's 30. So you look at Vegas and what all the other analysts and everybody else are saying, they're kind of favoring a team like Bama to come out and win, and rightfully so. The kind of last piece that you've seen from LSU over the last week and a half was their collapse in College Station. So I understand the recency bias of it all, but numbers-wise, I like where LSU sits. I'm a big fan of 13-0 in Tiger Stadium. It's hard to not like that. So for me, I'm going to be rolling with that with LSU here. I'm excited to see which team we get. Like you said, Preston, are you going to get the first half in College Station, or are you going to get the second half in College Station? Because what you said, if they come out and play like they did in the first half at A&M, I mean, you could kind of punch them in the gut early and get this thing wrapped up pretty quick. If we get the second half, it's going to be a long night for LSU fans. So I'm excited to see what we get from LSU. I think Garrett Nussmeier's probably learned a lot over the last week and a half. It'll be 2 weeks by the time they kick off, and then you start to kind of get your defense clicking. I don't think we'll ever see Blake Baker not have an answer ever again. I think he's a mastermind defensively, and I truthfully do think that he's going to kind of get this team clicking in the right direction. So I'm taking LSU here. I don't trust either team. Again, doubling down on what you said, but when it comes down to it, when you're in that atmosphere in Tiger Stadium and you see what this team does when the lights are brightest and the LSU fans kind of get underneath them and move on from there. We saw it a couple of weeks ago against Ole Miss. It's hard to not root for LSU in this one. So for now, as of Monday, 6 days before kickoff, I'm rolling with LSU here, and I really think they can handle business here and propel Brian Kelly to be 14-0 in Tiger Stadium in night games.
I'm excited for it. That Ole Miss atmosphere was electric. I'm hoping we see more of that. Comment of the night: election year in college game day in Baton Rouge, bringing James Carville. Oh God! And of course he follows that up with "This is a joke." I read that and had to laugh a little bit. But anyways, guys, let's see. I want to find something for Mike here right as we're closing out of the show. He put something up here. Buddy and I are going live 6 p.m. Wednesday night, so we don't have to conflict with men's basketball at 7. And guys, we're probably going to do a little bit of shuffling around here and there throughout the season as we have to compete with basketball games, both men and women's, during these nightly shows. So, hey, we had to compete with women's basketball game tonight, and it was what it was. I said, you know what? We're just going to take it on the chin, and hopefully we get people rewatching us. Congratulations to Kim Mulkey and the LSU women's basketball team. They won 95-44 tonight. Tigers taking care of business on a team I'm told is probably the deepest, most talented, like top to bottom talented roster since Kim Mulkey's gotten here. It's saying something considering one of her teams won a national championship. We will be back on this channel post-game show after the Alabama game. Mike and I will. You just saw the update about Mike and Buddy where they'll be back. And Zach and I will be back next week. Of course, we're going to play it by ear, see basketball schedule, all that goes on. We might have some time adjustments, but generally speaking, you can see us here Monday night at 8 p.m. each and every week. Appreciate y'all for watching. If you enjoyed the show, please hit like on the show to help with the analytics. Of course, particularly competing with a women's basketball game, we really need the analytic help. So I appreciate that. If you would take your time and do that or share it to your social media pages, whatnot, it's always very helpful. Make sure to go follow Zach on Twitter at ZNaggy20. Keep up with all his work he does there at LSU Country. And of course, follow TigerBait.com for all the updates, including that Bryce Underwood inside scoop that I mentioned earlier here on the show. If you want a more expanded version of that, we'll get you taken care of. Appreciate y'all for watching, and y'all have an excellent evening.